The Story of St. Nicholas by Mildred Luckhardt. Chapter 8. Great Honors for Nicholas. Much work awaited Nicholas in Myra. Day after day he studied hard, and he visited the sick and the poor for many miles around. He made friends with children who lived in lonely huts perched on rocky hillsides, or in cottages nestled along the shore, or in ramshackle old houses crowded in dirty towns. Soon he was called Brother Nicholas. Then as time went on, people called him Father Nicholas. Whenever he appeared, they were glad to see him. One summer day, Father Nicholas walked along a leafy lane singing. He was happy because he had just found a good home for 2 orphan children. He still had a long way to walk before he would be back in Myra, so he sat down to rest a bit and to eat his lunch by a willow-fringed pool. Just as he opened his sack and made ready to eat some bread and cheese and dates and spicy cake, there came a sound. Was it a child crying? He looked around and saw 3 children on the doorstep of a hut not far off. One of them was crying. When no one came to comfort the child, Nicholas picked up his lunch and hurried over to find out what was wrong. Soon the children were telling him their troubles. Their mother and father had gone to work in the vineyards. There was nothing to eat in the house. They were all hungry. Nicholas dried their tears and spread his lunch before them. "See what I brought for you," he exclaimed. In no time they were smiling and he was waving goodbye to them. He was hungry, but the children were happy, so he was happy too. Not a day passed when Nicholas did not make someone happy. And all the while he was taking more and more responsibility in the work of the church. However, one year he was able to take time to sail to the Holy Land as he had been hoping to do for a long time. One evening on a hilly pasture near the little town of Bethlehem, Nicholas stood with some shepherds watching the sheep. A lamb cuddled in his arms. All was still on the hillside and in the sleeping town. Was this such a night as that holy night when Christ was born? Nicholas looked at the starry heaven and thought of the angel's song of glory to God and peace on earth to men of good will. The wonder of that song echoed in his heart during the voyage back to Myra. He wanted to share with everybody the joy and goodwill that Jesus brought to earth. He wrote to Anya and to the family of Thaddeus about Bethlehem and about watching the flocks by night in the fields. He promised to tell them more about the Holy Land when he next could go to Paderup. However, it may not be for some time, for our good bishop is very old and not well, and we all try to help him as much as we can, he wrote. One evening, word came to him that the bishop was dead. Very early the next morning, Nicholas walked down to the cathedral to pray. As he walked through the city, here and there, small groups of Christians were gathered to talk about the good old bishop and to wonder who the next bishop would be. Nicholas wondered too. He had no idea who would be chosen, but he prayed that he would be as good and kind a man as their old bishop had been. Churchmen he knew would soon be meeting at the cathedral to elect a new one. As he came to the cathedral, he realized that already the men were meeting. It seemed strange to him that he had not known about the meeting. He walked to the door of the church, and just then a churchman stepped forward. "Hail, Nicholas! You are to be Bishop of Myra," the man said. Nicholas was speechless. Surely he had heard wrong. Other churchmen gathered around him, calling, "Hail, Nicholas, Bishop of Myra!" Nicholas was still too amazed to speak. He, a bishop? Boys passing by heard the man on the cathedral steps proclaiming Nicholas bishop. They ran down the street shouting, "Our friend, good Father Nicholas, will be the new bishop." From place to place the word flew, and Christians dropped their work and hurried to the cathedral. As the people came, Nicholas understood. He looked around at the churchmen and asked, "May I go inside alone to pray? I must ask God to help me do what is right." Slowly he walked toward the front of the church and, kneeling humbly, talked with God for a long time. He wanted to lead the people truly and be brave to do right, no matter how great was the danger. He wanted to be a real follower of Jesus. When he once more appeared at the cathedral door, a crowd of people cheered. Children climbed nearby trees to see him better, and one little boy called down when the crowd was quiet for a moment, "Father Nicholas, we are happy that you will be bishop. You are my friend." "My friend too," a little girl in the crowd sang out. She worked her way toward the front so as to be one of the first to follow the churchmen and the new bishop into the cathedral. As bishop, Nicholas was treated with great respect. A number of people called him Bishop Nicholas, which was right, but he liked to be called Father Nicholas. and many spoke of him in that way, or they said, "Good Father Nicholas," or sometimes just "Good Nicholas." Everyone knew it was he. He had to travel to many churches and homes, so he bought a sleek white horse, swift and graceful, the kind of horse he had dreamed of owning when he was a boy. He named his horse North Star. As the North Star guided travelers by sea and land toward their homes, so the good bishop's horse often brought him safely home through the dark after a long, weary day. Bishop Nicholas and his horse were a welcome sight whenever they went. As they climbed the mountainsides to visit the shepherds boys and girls ran across the grassy mountain pastures to greet him. Sometimes a father would tell the bishop that his son was lazy and did not do his share of the work. Then good Nicholas would talk with the boy and point out what was right and wrong and urge him to do right. When he rode down to the farms in the valleys, the farmers' children would see him and call, "Here comes Father Nicholas!" Then everyone would hurry to greet him and welcome him into their homes. If the children in a household had done wrong, Father Nicholas spoke with them kindly but firmly. He loved children so much that he wanted them to all do their best. He was stern when it was for their own good, and they respected him and loved him very much. Many a time he was in a lonely, dangerous place. Late one afternoon, he was riding down a mountain path when he saw a rough-looking man waving a sword and beckoning to others who lurked behind rocks a short distance away. Nicholas reined his horse up short. He knew at once that this was a wild robber band that had beaten farmers in the valley, stolen horses, and robbed a poor widow of silver coins she had hidden in a jar. Nicholas always carried a bag of gold coins, and no doubt they knew this. Were they waiting to beat him and rob him? There was time to turn North Star around and escape into the hills before the robbers could follow. There Nicholas would be safe in the shepherds' encampments for the night. Knives glinted in the sun as the robbers crept behind the rocks nearer and nearer. Still, Nicholas did not turn and gallop away. Instead, he rode North Star straight up to the robbers. "Put those knives and swords on the ground," he called. "And your clubs, too. Now all of you, sit under that tree. I want to talk with you." The robber chief was so astonished by Nicholas's courage that he dropped his knife. More knives, swords, and clubs chattered to the ground as Nicholas ordered, "Drop them all!" Then while he gathered under the tree, he talked with them very seriously. Among other questions, he asked how they would like it if they were farmers and robbers stole their horses. And did they not feel like cowards to steal a poor old woman's coins? "Now," he said, "get the horses and lead them to their rightful owners, and take that silver to the widow's house." He went with the robbers while they untied the stolen horses hidden in an oak grove. The animals were frightened and ready to stampede, but he soothed them and coaxed them to start back to their homes. Stones rolled under the horses' hooves as the cavalcade moved downhill. Bishop Nicholas rode from one to another, patting the horses and talking with the men. He spoke so convincingly that two of the robbers decided to find honest work to do. When news reached the valley that the robbers were coming back again, people fled into their houses and barred the doors. But one child, peeping through a partly open shutter, cried, "Father Nicholas is leading the robber band!" Then doors flew open and people flocked out to welcome their brave bishop. Word of Bishop Nicholas's deeds spread to the Christians throughout the valley, over the hills, and along the seashore. "A bishop needs to be brave these days," some said, for they had heard about new persecutions of church leaders. Sailors brought word that the emperor's soldiers were trying to stamp out all Christians. Many bishops and other Christians as well had been tortured and killed when they refused to give up being followers of Jesus. Nicholas knew this, but he was determined to be brave for God. Meanwhile, from day to day, he kept on with his work.